Hello, 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 and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria. This is Her Talk Show. We are going to be talking all about how to balance provider versus pleasure energy. I am so excited for this topic. I had to read this a couple of times. We're going to be talking all about personal finances, right? There's two different areas of which you can kind of show up in that area. So I'm super excited about this. We have Christine here with us, joining us. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs, the challenges faced by women worldwide. She's going to be offering some insights, some inspiration to fuel not only your personal, but also your professional growth. So let's jump in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Awesome. If you're listening live, I see you jumping on. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome. If you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so that we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. Ready for money to support your happiness rather than stress you out? Yes. Then you need Christine Luken, a financial dignity coach, in your corner. Christine has coached hundreds of women and couples to pay off staggering amounts of debt and massively increase their net worth. The author of 4 books and founder of the Wealthy Women Book Club. Christine blends wise money management with emotional intelligence. I love that. Welcome, lady.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I love the topic of money. I think we don't talk about it enough. I think that's why we're all struggling with it so much, because there's nothing to grasp onto, because no one is talking about it. So I'm so excited to have you here. I know that the ladies are going to thoroughly enjoy what we're bringing to the table today. So the title of this podcast is Balancing Provider and Pleasure Energy in Your Personal Finances. So I'd love to just kind of delve into provider and pleasure energy.
Yes. Yeah. So let's start with a little analogy, because I think people are going to get this immediately. So if you are at the circus, you have probably seen someone on the trapeze.
Yes.
In order to have a successful experience on the trapeze, you need 2 pieces of equipment. You need the swing and the net. If you have a swing and no net, that is not fun. That is freaking terrifying. But if you have a safety net and you have no swing, you have completely missed the point entirely.
Wow.
And so that is really the 2 energies that are present in our personal finances. The provider money is that safety net. It is that money that makes sure that we are okay, that we are not in panic mode, that our nervous systems are not dysregulated when it comes to money. That swing energy, that is the pleasure energy, right? So if you can even, it's been a while since you've been on a swing, just like think back about being on the playground swing, right?
You know what's funny about this is I
What?
just started dating somebody, and we went to the playground and swung on the swing. And I actually said, I have not been on a swing in a decade, but we like really swung like high. We were like, all
Yeah.
into it. Like we were freaking 7 years old. It was actually great.
But
So,
like that feeling, right? It's like you feel that wind in your hair, you feel
yes.
that rush of adrenaline, and it's like you said, you feel like a kid again. That is also part of money's job. Money's job is to keep you safe and secure, but its job, once you are safe and secure, is also to support your happiness. And so there needs to be that fun and excitement factor in your finances.
Mm.
We need both, right? And so, unfortunately, people tend to swing one of two ways, right? You've got the people who are so overly controlling, so overly concerned with the safety that they're scared to loosen up and have fun. And then you have other people who, as soon as they get a little bit of money, they will go and blow it on something fun while they have big, huge holes in their financial safety net. Neither one of those is healthy. Neither one of those is healthy. And, you know, my story is that, I crashed and burned financially in my 20s despite having an accounting degree. So I had all the head knowledge, and yet I rebelled against that head knowledge. And part of that was because of a dysfunctional relationship to someone who was addicted to the fun. He didn't care about the safety net at all. I cared about the safety net,
Yeah.
but I also felt emotionally manipulated into giving him what he wanted.
Yeah.
And so, if you've ever been in a codependent relationship, you've experienced this, right? Like I
Mhm.
was the parent, I was the one, you know, trying to catch him from falling out of the sky while he was swinging from the rooftops. And, he didn't really care about the safety net. I cared about the safety net, but it was in tatters. And so when I left that relationship and I started to rebuild my finances, I actually kind of shifted a little too far in the safety direction.
Mm.
And part of that was because of the emotional and financial trauma that I had experienced in that 7-year relationship. When you are coming out of a situation where you're not emotionally regulated and you are in survival mode, you need that. And I needed that period of just stabilizing my finances, of rebuilding that safety net. But then there also came a point to where I realized I wasn't letting myself swing. And in fact, it was so funny because it was like the silliest things. I realized I was being cheap with myself over dumb stuff. For example, I have allergies. I live on the edge of the allergy capital of the United States. So Cincinnati is one of the worst places for people with allergies, and I live just south of it. I go through a lot of Kleenex. I was buying the generic Kleenex. I was not allowing myself to have the soft Kleenex or the Puffs Plus with lotion, which is what I really needed. And it's not that that was not going to break the bank for me, but I had been in survival mode for so long and in rebuilding mode. I was like addicted to that discounting mentality, even though I didn't need to be. And so it actually took me a while to let myself loosen up. And I remember I would never allow myself to buy what I really wanted if there was another option that was on sale. So, for example, if I saw a purse that I really wanted and I really wanted the red one, but the yellow one was on sale, 25% off. I just had this default that I would always go for what was on sale. And then I would find myself regretting it later. I would look at that yellow purse and be like, yeah, I like that, but I really, really wish I would have gotten the red. And so it took me some time to get to that point where I was like, the safety net that I have, it is enough. If you think about the person that's literally swinging in the trapeze, they don't need 4 safety nets. right? They just need one good one. But I had gotten my finances to the point to where I had the equivalent of like 2 or 3 safety nets, and I was still afraid to swing. So I had to do some of that inner work to give myself permission to say, this isn't being irresponsible. This is enjoying my money.
Totally get that. So I have a question.
Yeah.
When does a person know, like you said, you had the equivalent of 2 or 3 safety nets.
Mhm.
How does somebody know when one safety net has been, like, when do we get to start enjoying or sitting in the more or allowing ourselves the pleasure?
Yeah.
Because I think there is, you have to like work, right? And
Yeah.
be diligent, and then it kind of opens up. So what does that look like for somebody? Or should we be having pleasure the whole time, even if we are in distress?
Well, I think for most people, unless you are unable to pay bills, if you've got collectors calling, you got to be 100% in provider mode energy because you're in crisis. However, if you're paying all the bills, there should be some money for pleasure. So the way to think about it is, depending on the strength of your safety net, you can have your pleasure swing, but your swing might need to be 5 or 10 feet off the ground, not 50 feet off the ground. So if after you pay all your bills at the end of the month, you've got $100 left over, then maybe you've got $50 for fun money. Now, if at the end of the month you have $2,000 left over, hey, then maybe that does mean you can spend $1,000 a month on the fun stuff. But when I talk about the safety net, in my newest book, Provider Money, Pleasure Money, really, I want people to have at the beginning at least 1 month of their living expenses. So if your income was zero next month, what would you absolutely have to pay? Right. So that would be things like your rent, your mortgage, car payments, your minimum due on your credit cards. Certainly, there would be things that you could cut. You could say, like, all right, well, I could cut out my massage, I could cut out, getting my manicure. There are definitely some things I could cut out of there, but what are all the essentials that are like non-negotiable that I have to pay? What is that number? Is it $3,000? Is it $5,000? Let's get that in a savings account specifically for your safety net. And then the goal is to build that up to 3 to 6 months. Now, you can be doing some pleasure money and putting some towards your safety net at the same time, which is usually what happens when I'm coaching my clients. I'm not going to ask them to give up all of the fun stuff because what happens in that situation is pretty much the same thing if you love carbs and I ask you to go on keto. Right? Like if you're really strong, you might last a week. I don't know. You might only last an afternoon. I could never do a keto plan because I love carbs way too much. But when we're looking at a healthy eating plan, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, yes, you can have some carbs, but there's a limit. Like there's guardrails around that. And so as you are making sure that your safety net is super strong and it's going to hold you, we can be spending money on fun stuff and we should be. And here's the thing, a lot of times it doesn't even have to be a lot of money, right? A single rose might make you as happy as an entire bouquet. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I am sorry. Thank you. Hold on. So earlier you said support your happiness, and I'm kind of leading into this because of what you just said. A single rose could bring you just as much joy as a dozen roses. How does one learn to gauge their happiness? Like, when is it happiness and when is it splurging?
Yeah.
And I say this because a lot of people can relate to this. I'm also going to relate this to food, where we diet and we're doing really good
Hmm.
with the diet and we're losing some weight and we're feeling some goodness. And then all of a sudden you find yourself binging at like 1 o'clock in the morning watching true crime on Netflix, and you just like cannot get enough food.
Right.
So when is it like happiness and when is it a splurge that's dangerous?
Mm, yeah. Well, I think one of the things that is true of both food and money, especially when it comes to spending money, is that sometimes we do it to fulfill an emotional need or to cover up an emotional pain. So, one of the things that I tell my clients to do, when you are getting ready to spend money, especially because usually most people aren't emotionally investing. They're usually emotionally spending. That's usually where we get out of control. At least,
Right.
when I have those situations, that's usually what it is. Um, as we are getting ready to spend money, one of the best things that we can do is to ask ourselves, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling positive and peaceful? Or am I feeling angry? Am I feeling lonely? Am I feeling bored? Really identifying what those trigger emotions are
Okay.
for us is really, really important.
Yeah, I get that. Um, okay, so I have a question. Can we use my own story? I'm dealing with
Yes.
it right now.
Okay. Tell me.
Okay, so this is all transparency, super vulnerable here in the story.
Okay.
So I own a 2015 Honda Pilot. I bought it cash when it was 3 years old, $21,000. I did get financing on it, but I paid it all off within a month. Super excited about it. I've had it this whole time. I have no car payment. When you were talking about your story, safety net, saving money, provider verse, I've been in provider mode pretty much my whole fucking life.
Yeah.
So constantly making money, constantly, go, 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 creating income for myself because I came from so much lack, which we're not going to get into that. So this is the dilemma I have right now. I'm used to not having a car payment.
Hmm.
I'm in provider mode, like I just am. I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
Even though I have a safety net or two, totally fine. But like my brain doesn't compute that. Okay.
I know.
So I'm having issues with my car right now. It's doing some funky stuff. The car, I took it to two places, dealership, my mechanic, $10,000. Okay, so I
Hmm.
paid $10,000. It's a Honda Pilot. They're saying I can get another 100,000 miles off of it if I just invest $10,000. Okay.
Hmm.
But it's a 2015 Honda Pilot. It's old, right? Doesn't really fit my lifestyle. I'm elevating in so many areas of my life, my health, my
Hmm.
business. So my car doesn't really match where I feel like I am.
Right.
However, no one sees my car.
Right.
Everything I do is online. So it doesn't really matter. Okay. So that's one. Two, do I just sell the car and then end up going into car payments and or not, but basically just dropping a bunch of freaking money out of my account? Ego, right? Is that ego? Is that happiness? Like, how do I gauge that? How do I know that me not wanting to stay in my 2015 Honda Pilot, even though it makes more sense financially, it's only 10 grand,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Versus dropping 20 or 30 grand, because you can't even buy a decent car right now for 20 grand again. It's 30
Hmm.
grand basically.
Right.
And dropping either cash or getting payments again on a new
Hmm.
car.
Yeah.
How do I know pleasure versus provider so that I'm doing it in alignment with what you are talking about?
Yeah. Well, if you were my client, one of the things that we would look at is your overall financial picture. So we would look at, okay, what is your income? What are your expenses? What's left at the end of the month? You said you have a safety net or two.
Mhm.
So that probably means like if you needed to, if you had to pay cash for this car,
Mhm.
you could, but that would leave you feeling panicked because your safety
Yes.
net would feel thin, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, um, but you feel like this car doesn't match you anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's old.
And here's the thing, part of it is not just the fact that nobody sees this car. It affects you, right? It's like, sure, your office looks great, but what if we walked outside and the rest of your house looked like a disaster? Like you're you're carrying that energy with you, right? And so if we said, okay, let's start, let's do a little shopping, right? Let's look online. Let's see what sort of car I would want to have, what sort of car matches me now, what would make me happy, and let's look at payments, right? You can go on to bankrate.com and you can say, okay, what happens if I put 10,000 down? Let's put 10,000 plus whatever we get for the car that's not running, right? So let's just say you get 15. All right. So now your safety net has $10,000 less. Does that feel like panic mode to you?
No.
Okay. If you, so there's part of your answer right there. So let's say you got a newer car and you had a payment. Now, if you're making regular money in your business,
I am.
how much money? So if I said, okay, so if I just plopped a $500 car payment in your lap, would you feel panicked about that?
No.
Okay. What about $1,000?
But yeah, that's not a thing.
Okay. So there we go. We've kind of found, all right, 500 is a no-brainer for
Yeah.
you. And putting $10,000 cash down.
Yeah.
Right. So let's shop and look at the numbers. And
Yeah.
here's the thing. This is actually a perfect time for you to be shopping because many of the dealerships probably still have 2024 models on the floor. The 2025s are in. Everybody wants a 2025.
Yeah.
No one is going to know but you what model your car is.
Yeah.
So when I bought my Alfa Romeo Giulia in 2021, I paid cash for it. I traded in my old car. I paid $10,000 less for it because it was a 2020.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what year my car is unless they've listened to this podcast. And I've done that with the last 3 cars that I've bought, right? So if you say, okay, do you still have any 2024s on the lot? They are almost giving those away with zero profit margin because their bosses are telling them, get this car off my lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And before you go in, find out from your bank, if you finance it through the bank, what sort of interest rate and payments you can get through your local bank or credit union before you go to the dealer. Because when you look at their terms, you've got a negotiation point and you may find that it's a better deal for you to finance it through the bank. And here's the thing, you can always pay it off early.
To avoid so much interest.
Yeah.
See, that's the issue is like my analytical brain clicks in because I bought cash for my cars, the last 3 cars. They were all 20,000 or less. But so I'm like aware, I'm happy. It's like part of my identity of like, yeah, I don't pay interest for my car because I'm such a badass, right?
Right.
I keep my expenses low. I'm very realistic with everything. I'm not a risk taker. But now thinking of $30,000 being dropped out of my account cash, that's giving me anxiety.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, so now I have to do payments. But then I know that so much money is going towards interest. And I like hate that for myself.
Well, I think you actually need to like look and see when you look at your payments exactly how much is going to interest.
I do have good credit now. That's the other thing. The other cars that I bought, my credit wasn't as good. Now I have perfect picture
Yeah.
credit. So that should help, I assume.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. What if you made 130% of your car payment every month?
Yeah.
And so you're paying an extra 30% towards the principal. So, you can end up paying it off in 2 or 3 years. And if you have a great year at the end of the year and you're looking at your savings account, you're like, I'm just going to pay this off.
I love that. Cool. Thank
So,
you. And to
and here's the
everyone
thing.
go ahead.
I heard you say, like, this is the kind of person that I am. I don't pay interest.
Yeah, it's like something that I'm proud of. Like I brag about it. Like it's part of my identity, you know?
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's like, you're not a bad person if you pay interest.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean you've changed your core identity if you change your mind about that. Right.
Okay.
So currently, my husband and I are debt free. We paid off the mortgage. And we've talked about, like, what are the instances where we might go back into debt. And pretty much what we have agreed upon is the only thing we would go into debt for is if we had the potential to get in on a business, a profitable business, or if we found our absolute dream house and we didn't want to completely deplete our savings, that we would be okay, getting a mortgage, knowing we would be paying it off in less than 5 years. Like that would be our goal. Like even if it was a 15-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage, our goal would be we're paying this off in 5 years.
Got it. I love that. What a great conversation.
Well, good. I'm glad that was helpful. And I think that is a very good example because a lot of these issues are not black and white. There's a lot of shades of gray.
Yeah.
And if I had asked a few more questions about your personal finances and you were like, well, I only have $5,000 in my savings account. I don't have enough to pay cash, then the conversation might have gone a different path.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your book. I know you have your newest book out right now, Provider Money, Pleasure Money. Yes. So I know we've been talking on this topic and with my story, right? Provider versus pleasure. So tell us a little bit about the book, why people should buy it, what we can get from it.
Yeah. So basically, I walk through each portion of your personal finances and explain how the provider energy and the pleasure energy work and interact in that portion of your finances. So let's just talk about income because that's an easy one to look at. When you're looking at your personal finances, whether you're single or you're married, and you look at, what is the income that we need for our provider needs. So, income and saving or income and spending are very closely correlated, right? So when we look at what are the things that we absolutely need to pay for our provider expenses, we need to make sure that our provider income matches that at least, right? But then we can also have some, not just pleasure spending, but we can also have income that's in more of that pleasure energy. So when we think about the provider income, it's like, this has to be the reliable stuff that comes in and month out, and it covers all our needs. But there can also be other streams of income that can be more pleasurable, and there's not necessarily pressure around it. So, for example, I love affiliate income. I don't count on it, but there are certain products and services that I love and that I use and that I'm happy to recommend to other people without pressure. So, for example, if I said, oh, Sabrina, like I just took this amazing course from this awesome coach. I think you'd totally love it. Here's the link if you're interested. I don't need you to buy that for me to pay my bills.
Okay.
Right? So there's a totally different energy around that income. The same thing with the spending. It's like, if I'm going to buy, like, I love crystals. I have them all over the place. Like, obviously, this is not a provider need. This is a pleasure need. And so there's a different energy when I spend like that versus when I'm buying groceries. But these provider and pleasure energies are laced throughout everything, through our saving, through our investing. Um, we've got to be careful when we have that pleasure energy get too tied up into debt. So, there's definitely some subtleties for these energies and how they show up. And the great thing is there is a free reflection journal that you can access along with a meditation where you get to meet your inner provider king and pleasure queen who rule your financial kingdom. So that helps you with some of that unconscious reprogramming.
Like every person has a provider king and a pleasure queen.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes.
Very cool. Wow. Okay. I like that. Is that gone over in the book?
Yeah. So if you go to providermoney.com, that's the landing page for the book. There's links to get it on Amazon. And then there's also the link to access the workbook and the meditation.
Awesome. And is that on your website or Amazon? Where do we find that?
So it's for sale on Amazon. It's also part of Kindle Unlimited. And then the workbook and the meditation are on my website. So
awesome. And then that is called Provider Money, Pleasure Money, the Energetics of Personal Finance.
Yes.
Love that. By Christine Luken.
Yes, yes.
Love it. Well, this has been fabulous. I so appreciate it. I have never heard of this before, provider versus pleasure energy. So this was super enlightening for me. Also just gave me some really great visuals as far as which one is talking at any given time, and allowing myself to really kind of question, right? Second guess, be more aware, be more intentional throughout my spending. So this has been great.
Well, thanks for having me. I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, 100%. For those of you listening in live, thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. Make sure you follow, like, and share. If you resonated with Christine and all the goodness that she shared, her website, christineluken.com, is in a clickable link in the description below, wherever you are watching us at. Where do you hang out on social media predominantly? Facebook, LinkedIn?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So
under your name or under?
Search my name and you'll find
me.
me.
Made it easy. She made it easy. That's great. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, the one thing I'd like to leave you with is to remember that you have a relationship with money. Money wants to spend time with you. Money wants to support your happiness. And in order for that to happen, you've got to be open to that relationship, and you've got to invest some time and energy into that relationship.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you listening live or on the replay, we'd love it. Make sure you drop in the comments, say hello, follow Christine. Once again, my name is Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to have conversations just like this one in order to make sure that we always uplift each other every step of the way. Until next time.